Welcome to this EDH deck tech for Podstompy, a Yasova Dragonclaw deck. Yasova Dragonclaw is a 3-mana green creature with 4/2 stats and trample, and the triggered ability, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 3 mana. If you do, gain control of target creature an opponent controls with power less than Yasova's power until end of turn. Untap that creature, and it gains haste until end of turn. This means that she is a green-blue-red commander with a very relaxed casting cost. Yasova offers 2 things from the command zone: a repeatable active treason stealing effect, and a cheap, very aggressive creature to go with it. As a 4-power creature that frequently comes down on turn 2 and starts swinging, Yasova can even end the game with commander damage. Most importantly, she has a giant pet saber-toothed tiger. The deck is built around turning Yasova's temporary thieving into permanent value with sacrifice outlets, while an aggressive suite of creatures attacks to end the game as quickly as possible. Since I can't always rely on Yasova surviving, there are a few similar cards in the deck. Unfortunately, there aren't many powerful acts of treason effects printed in the game, but Zealous Conscripts and Captivating Crew are both decent. The most effective sacrifice outlets available in these colors are Birthing Pod effects, sacrificing a creature to get one of higher mana cost directly onto the battlefield. When I first designed this deck, only Birthing Pod itself and Eldritch Evolution had been printed, but Wizards has spoiled me in the past year with Primespeaker Vannifar and Neoform. With its unbanning, Protean Hulk provides a similar effect, so I can reliably get access to the creatures I need. I'm not playing any instant win Hulk piles or Birthing Pod chains. I just grab an aggressive board or necessary answers with these tutors. The deck becomes very consistent. The deck has even more sacrifice effects that work well in a green, creature-heavy deck. Greater Good and Evolutionary Leap give some strong card draw. Greater Good is especially powerful with some of my own large creatures. This other card here, Greater Gargadon, is a free sacrifice outlet that eventually becomes a big hasty beater. It's not the most powerful card, but it's only 1 mana, so I play it. These colors have access to a few good fight effects in Ulvenwald Tracker and War of the Spark Domri, which allow me to turn opponents' creatures into removal, and sometimes get the golden 2-for-0, where the opponent's creatures just crash into each other. Finally, we are blessed to have this card in green, because it really reads like a black card. Scourge of Skola Vale is a trampling, growing sack outlet. It does require tapping, but it is still on theme and powerful enough to warrant an inclusion. I also play a few fake sacrifice outlets. Kogla and Temur Sabertooth can return a stolen creature to its owner's hand, which can be even better than sacrificing against graveyard decks. They also double as protection for my other creatures, and Kogla is a removal powerhouse. Thassa's Blink effect is worded to return the creature under my control permanently, so this can create a brutal lock alongside Yasova. A huge boon of having Yasova in the command zone is easy access to a 4-power creature for cards that care about that. Temur Ascendancy and War of the Spark Kiora become reliable draw, and Ronus is a deadly beat stick that powers up other creatures, notably allowing Yasova to steal bigger things. I can't always draw into the critical sacrifice outlets naturally, so I've included a lot of early card draw to guarantee I find a sacrifice engine, smooth out the first few turns, and get the deck online quickly. Duskwatch Recruiter is an excellent mana sink on the human side, and a decent ramp spell on the werewolf side. Edric can draw a lot of cards from exposed opponents, and this deck dominates creature combat enough that it will likely break parity on Edric's card draw in a multiplayer match. Rounding out the trio of War of the Spark Planeswalkers is Vivian, providing both card draw and granting flash to creature spells, which is very useful since I sometimes will want to hold up counter magic. Uro is too good not to play, especially because filling up the graveyard to escape him is reasonable in a deck with this sacrifice theme. The only win condition of this deck is swinging creatures sideways, so I needed to add some power boosters. These are used mostly on Yasova so that she can steal larger creatures, but they work on any of our cheap creatures just as well. Shaman of the Great Hunt is a work orc in this deck, providing a lot of power to the board while also giving us a great mana sink. Hadana's Climb is weak on the front side, and undoubtedly slow to flip, growing creatures only one counter at a time, but it flips into the very impactful Winged Temple of Erazka, which doubles power and gives flying. Temple of Erazka is not the only power doubler in the deck. Xenagos is an EDH classic, granting haste and an enormous power boost. God Eternal Ronus buffs up the entire board, and the unique death trigger allows him to be fetched again later with our tutors. Eldritch Evolution especially. You can use Eldritch Evolution, sacrifice God Eternal Ronus, and grab him again right away. Not quite a power doubler, Combat Celebrant is the cheapest extra combat phase that Wizards has ever printed, and the haste enablers I play strengthen this pick. Cards like these establish board dominance and snowball early advantages into victories with enormous critters. I want to take a moment to talk about clones in EDH. I think they are not worth a slot, if the intent is only to clone opponents' creatures. However, in this deck, I have an abundance of good clone targets on my side of the board. I think this makes them worthwhile here. I chose Altered Ego for its beefiness, Mythos of Iluna for its versatility and removal power, and Sakashima Student for its synergy with Yasova. You can bounce a stolen creature with ninjutsu. I'm going to go over these next cards really quick since they are mostly generic staples, but they are integral to the deck functioning. Cheap cantrips like Brainstorm, Preordain, and Ponder give you more keepable opening hands and are never bad draws later. I play a wide array of cheap ramp, trying to diversify between lands, creatures, and artifacts to dodge removal as best as I can. I've included green staple removal like Nature's Claim and Reclamation Sage, as well as a couple of red board wipes and a few counterspells to interact with the opponent. These cards aren't interesting, but they are very necessary. It's a 3-color deck, so I can't squeeze in too many utility lands. Mostly I have to focus on color fixing, especially with a budget mana base. I still found room for a few great utility lands. All of these come in untapped, which helps their case. Opal Palace is a great way to boost up Yasova for only 1 extra mana when casting her. Shinka is basically a better mountain. First Strike is great with Yasova's 4 power. Endless Sands gives access to an exiling sacrifice outlet, which is very rare and can be important for fighting against graveyard decks. I'll finish this deck tech by putting the spotlight on my favorite card in this deck, Homura, Human Ascendant. He's a terrible 4/4 for 6 mana, can't even block, but when he dies, Homura transforms into an enchantment that turns all of your creatures into fire-breathing dragons. Maybe the best static anthem available outside of white? This card is worth considering in any deck that swings sideways and is playing enough ways to reliably kill Homura. The full deck list is available in the description. There's plenty of room to upgrade and customize it to your liking by cutting all of my awful pet cards. Tune in next time for Mono Blue Group Hug Voltron with Kefnet the Mindful. Thanks for watching this deck tech. Enjoy stomping.